Welcome, another Sunday, another episode of the Belt Chronicles to go over with you. This week, I've been excited to do this one because, like I said in my last video, I actually got to see photos of the actual belt when it was sold at auction during 2020. I don't know how I didn't hear about this estate sale going on, but it somehow missed me. We are talking about the WWWF Bruno Sammartino belt. So this is not the first belt that not the first belt that Sammartino would hold. The belt he won from Rogers was actually a different belt. It was something that Rogers had kept from a promoter in Ohio, and it went by the name American Wrestling Association, so AWA. But I don't know if that's would merge. Vern Gagne would buy it out and keep the name. I don't know how that all happened. But Rogers kept the United States belt that they had, and when Vince McMahon broke away from the NWA, obviously Vince's dad, Vincent James McMahon, broke away from the NWA. They needed a champion. They decided to make it Rogers. They asked Rogers if he had a belt. He had the U.S. belt, so they used that. And that belt currently is in the possession of the WWE. But yeah, that is the belt that Bruno won from Rogers May 17th, 1963 in the Garden. And basically that belt more or less went missing. After a wrestler named Johnny Barron dies, his family finds it in the attic of their home along with an old tag belt. And that's when I've seen photos of Dave Milliken with it. So somebody contacted Milliken, and Milliken apparently, sold it to the WWE or gave it to him. I imagine, knowing Dave. Well, I don't know him, but imagine what I've heard about Dave. He probably got a pretty penny for that. So that's just my opinion. That's not slander. That's what my estimation of what happened. But I have no proof. So the original belt that we're talking about is the blue one with the 3 plates, and it's synonymous with Bruno. It's called the Bruno belt, right? So it's a 3-plate design. It is fabric covered leather, basically, and it's 2 shades of blue. You can see by some of the photos I'm going to put up here that there's like a royal blue, and then the outer edge is like a navy blue. I thought it was black for a long time, but seeing photos of the actual belt when it was sold at, was it SCP auctions or S&P auctions, you can see that it is a royal blue with a darker blue border around the outside, and it doesn't have snaps. It has an old-fashioned, like you'd feed a regular belt, right? The buckle and the holes in it. And so the buckle, or the clasp, whatever you want to call it, is held on with 2 either gold-plated or brass rivets. And then you've got, I can only see 8 holes, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were 9. It's just that the buckle's covering it. That seems like a long distance between the end of the strap and where the buckle's covering for there not to be a hole. It seems I can only see 8, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were 9. And like I said, it's fabric covered leather, so you can see on the back where Bruno signed it, there's a zipper to take the cover off. And there's also, it's kind of like an off-white color. I don't know what it originally was. Obviously, it's been worn, time and time again. So the color of the leather is probably distorted. It may have been a bright white. It may have been a cream color or something like that. I don't know, but I'm just showing you what it looks like today. And then, like I said, there's a zipper and there's stitching, not only around the zipper, but around the perimeter of the strap itself. And so there are 3 plates. The first plate, obviously, you see a crown up top. Then you see a globe. And then there's a couple like leaf, like floral patterns. And then filled in with black paint. Now, it says Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion. It should say WWWF. I don't have photos in front of me, but obviously you're seeing it. But what I do have on my notes here is, like I said, there's 3 side plates. And the right-hand side plate says, defeated Buddy Rogers May 17, 1963, Madison Square Garden. The side plate just below it, on the left-hand side, says Bruno Sammartino, Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion. So to prove its authenticity, not only is it signed by Bruno, but I'm also going to put up the letter that his son Daryl wrote saying that you're getting this from the family. This is my dad's belt. And it's a very, feel free to pause the video and read the letter in its entirety. Basically, talk about how his dad was an immigrant and how he was the champion for 8 years and how he inspired other Europeans to be to come over to America, and his 8-year run as champion is the longest ever. I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the letter printed out where I can read it verbatim, but it is nice that it did come with a letter. There were some other designs in between. Now, obviously, there's the Rogers belt that I talked about in the beginning of the video, but there's also in 1964 I found a magazine cover of Bruno. February 1964, up in the corner you could see that, where it's a single plate black strap design. And you can see it says World Champion up top, and then it says WWWF on the bottom. So obviously it's after May 17th of 63, so you know that's the World Wrestling Federation belt. And then there's another blue belt that was around during Bruno's tenure, and that one, I'll put a photo up here, and that one is, I have a picture of Bruno wearing it for the Wrestling Review magazine, and that magazine was printed in November of 68. And then there's a third version. I don't know where this falls in line in the chronology, which happened, first, which belt was around first, but there's another one that's very similar to the blue one that we're talking about today and the blue one that I just talked about from November 68, where the main plate looks very similar, but the side plates are almost shaped like police badges or something. They're very odd in terms of shape, and it almost looks like there's a link of chain or something connecting one plate to the other, kind of like the Fez belt. And that belt was around who knows how long, but the blue one that we're talking about today was the one that Ivan Koloff beat Bruno for on January 18th of 71 in the Garden. And you can see Ivan Koloff holding it after the match. And funny enough, I happened to find a photo of Bill Apter backstage at the Garden after Ivan's won it. And Apter is about to turn 80, I believe. So he would have been around 55 years ago. That would put him in his late 20s, something like that. And because you got to think it's 71, so that's 54 years ago. Yeah, he was a young man then. I don't know. I want to ask him when I meet him in May. He's going to that fan fest that me and my buddy have gone to the past 2 years. It's also going to be happening this year in May in St. Louis. He's going to be there, and I'm going to ask him a few questions. I asked him last year about how he got Andy Kaufman's neck brace. Now I want to know about how he got backstage in the Garden that night when Ivan Koloff won it. I think this is before PWI was a thing. So what do you have to look forward to in next week's video? Well, next week's video is going to be one that I think would be a fairly easy one because there are only really 2 belts that existed. We're going to talk about the Crumrine. So obviously I'm bringing the book out. I'm bringing one of my replicas out. And we're going to go over it. It's been covered to death, but I feel like if I didn't do it, somebody would ask where the WCW Big Gold video is. So we're going to cover that one. But yeah, this is crazy to actually get photos of the actual belt that was used in the ring. So I'm sad to know that somebody sold it. Somehow it was not bought by the WWE. I believe it was bought by the Wrestling Hall of Fame that sits up in Albany, New York. I can't remember the name of that Hall of Fame, but there is I think it's the International Wrestling Hall of Fame that sits up in Albany. That's where this belt, I think, from what I've heard, the Bruno belt resides today. But anyway, I'll see you next week, next Sunday, when we talk about the Crumrine.